The story begins a few years in the past. On a cold and silent night, doctors hurried through a dim corridor, pushing a stretcher draped in a white sheet stained with blood. Nearby, a young boy stood frozen, his eyes fixed on the lifeless hand resting outside the cover. The memory of his mother's death replayed again and again in his mind, refusing to fade. In that moment, the boy felt completely swallowed by darkness, as if even the air had abandoned him. The weight of his grief suffocated him, making him believe that the only escape was death. Just as he was about to give in, a gentle voice broke through the silence. A girl stood before him. With tear-filled eyes, the boy looked up, and in that instant, she felt like a light piercing through his darkness. Dressed neatly, with calm and curious eyes, the girl sat beside him and softly took his hand. She searched through her small blue bag, then placed a piece of strawberry candy into his palm. She told him that even if things felt unbearable right now, life treats everyone the same in the end. With a hopeful smile, she shared something her mother once told her, that life is like a plum, sour at first, but eventually sweet. Her words lingered. She encouraged him to hold on just a little longer, because someday things would get better. As she stood up to leave, the desperate boy quickly asked for her name. The girl smiled. With a small wave, revealing the butterfly mark on her cheek, she said her name would remain a secret. If fate allowed, they would meet again. Years passed. Under the blazing heat of a beautiful summer day, a man wiped the sweat from his brow as he evaluated a new student. The old literature teacher spoke with clear admiration, saying he had high expectations for the transfer student as he handed her a small white cloth.
The girl, now 17 years old, bore the same butterfly mark on her cheek. Her name was Lin Sha. She politely thanked the teacher and assured him she would do her best not to disappoint. The teacher, still surprised, remarked that many schools had made offers to her before, and yet this time she chose to accept. Lin Sha simply replied that this time she had a reason. Moments later, a sign reading Second Year Class 3 came into view. Inside, the classroom was buzzing with noise, students chatting, laughing, and creating chaos. The teacher struck a wooden object sharply, silencing the room. He then instructed everyone to welcome their new classmate. Stepping forward, the girl introduced herself. Lin Sha, it's a pleasure to meet you all. Almost instantly, whispers spread across the room as curiosity took over. When she asked where she could sit, the teacher casually told her to choose any empty seat. A boy quickly raised his hand, offering the spot beside him. As she walked toward the seat, all eyes followed her. Some girls quietly commented that she was lucky not to be sitting next to Ban Sheng, mentioning that very few girls were considered worthy of being near him. Noticing an empty desk labeled with that very name, Lin Sha instead took the offered seat. The boy beside her introduced himself as Ning Chao. After greeting him, she asked if he had also been recruited by the school. Ning Chao explained that to maintain its reputation, the school occasionally recruits students under social care, students labeled as F students, just like him. He added, with a faint shrug, that the school's hierarchy was a bit ridiculous, but soon enough she would understand how everything worked. Hearing this, Lin Sha simply smiled, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. She wondered what kind of life awaited her from this moment on.
The teacher finally announced the end of class, reminding everyone that the class representative should collect the assignments. Not long after, Lin Sha stepped out and headed toward the girls' bathroom. Inside, a group of girls were chatting, their voices filled with disappointment. They complained about Ban Sheng's absence from school, sighing over how much effort they had put into dressing up, only for him not to show up. Laughing among themselves, they joked that he probably only cared about basketball and astronomy, leaving no space for anything else. Just then, the bathroom door opened. One of the girls looked up and immediately smiled, warmly calling out Lin Shaw's name. She admitted she thought Lin Shaw had been joking when she said she would transfer to this school. A short while later, the two of them stood together on the terrace. Her friend, Liu Sijia, couldn't hide her amazement. She said she was still surprised Lin Shaw chose to come here, especially since her exam score was almost higher than the top student in the entire school. Curious, Lin Shaw asked who the top student was. Blushing slightly, Liu Sijia revealed the name, Ban Sheng, the very same name the other girls had been whispering about. Lin Shaw calmly asked if he was the one from the observatory. Liu Sijia nodded, confirming it. She added that Lin Shaw must have overheard the others earlier. In fact, the observatory belonged to Ban Sheng. His family even donated 2 entire buildings to the school. Noticing Lin Shaw casually using her phone, Liu Sijia leaned closer and asked what she was doing. Lin Shaw simply replied that she was messaging Ban Sheng, asking him to pass her Chinese homework since she needed to submit it. The moment she heard that, Liu Sijia's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, she snatched Lin Shaw's phone from her hand, excitedly declaring that she would handle it.
Quickly typing away, she arranged everything herself, setting the meeting for Saturday at 5 p.m. She even insisted that she would go in Lin Shaw's place to pick it up, eagerly asking for help choosing what to wear. Time passed. Saturday afternoon arrived. Inside a small neighborhood internet cafe, Lin Shaw worked quietly. She knew her new school didn't allow students to have jobs, which meant this would be her last day working there. But suddenly, something caught her attention. 2 men nearby were arguing, and within seconds it escalated into a fight. Without hesitation, Lin Shaw grabbed her phone and called security, calmly reporting that she was the receptionist and that a disturbance was happening inside the cafe. In the midst of chaos, someone suddenly threw an ID card onto the counter. As the men began to leave, one of them casually said he would pay the damages caused by the fight. Lin Shaw picked up the card. Her gaze froze on the name, Ban Sheng. The moment she realized who it belonged to, and fearing what might happen to the boy being dragged away, she rushed out into the rain, chasing after them. Not far away, in a narrow alley, Ban Sheng and his friends had cornered the man, who was now kneeling and begging for mercy. Ignoring his desperate pleas, Ban Sheng coldly stated that it was already too late. And then, Lin Shaw arrived. She called out to him. The sudden voice caught Ban Sheng off guard, and he turned slightly in surprise. But the moment his eyes met her face, everything shifted. He noticed the butterfly mark near her eye, and in that instant, a memory resurfaced. The little girl from that night long ago. For a moment, everything went still. Everyone present froze, their attention drawn to the sudden appearance of Lin Shaw. She stepped forward without hesitation and told Ban Sheng to stop, warning him that he was going too far, that the boy was already on the verge of being beaten to death. Ban Sheng didn't respond immediately. Instead, he picked up what looked like a bat and casually rested it on his shoulder. Looking down at the trembling boy kneeling before him, he said that since someone was pleading on his behalf, maybe he could leave with his dignity intact. The boy's face lit up with relief, ready to thank him. But before he could speak, Ban Sheng continued coldly, adding that he could keep his dignity while getting hit a little more. Just as he was about to move again, Lin Shaw reached out and grabbed his sleeve. That single action caught him off guard. She questioned him directly, asking why he had to resort to violence instead of just talking things out. From the back, one of the boys grew agitated, asking what she thought she was saying, but Ban Sheng raised a hand slightly, stopping him from continuing. Then, without another word, Ban Sheng let the bat drop to the ground. The loud clatter echoed through the alley, startling the boy still kneeling. After a brief pause, Ban Sheng told him to get lost. Not wasting a second, the frightened boy scrambled to his feet and ran, repeatedly thanking him as he disappeared into the rain. Liu Sijia's plan suddenly came to mind, and Lin Sha asked Ban Sheng why he hadn't shown up, reminding him that he had plans to hand over the assignment. She questioned what he was even doing there. Ban Sheng let out a slow sigh, exhaling the last bit of smoke from the cigarette between his fingers. He flicked it away, his expression unreadable. Calmly, he said that he didn't like girls that took the initiative, but since she was going this far to chase after him, he admitted he might start to feel interested. Sensing something off in his tone, Lin Sha instinctively stepped back. At that moment, her phone began to vibrate in her pocket.
It was Liu Sijia. On the other end, her friend sounded upset. She had been waiting for 2 hours, but Ban Sheng never showed up. Without hesitation, Lin Sha told her to send her location. She said she would come pick her up immediately. Clearly irritated, Lin Sha didn't even bother responding to Ban Sheng. She turned and ran straight into the pouring rain. Behind her, one of the boys muttered that they should leave too. It looked like a typhoon was coming. Ban Sheng simply patted the younger boy's head and agreed, but deep down, he couldn't ignore the faint disappointment lingering in his chest. It seemed she didn't recognize him at all. The rain poured heavily. Not long after, Lin Sha found Liu Sijia. Her friend stood there soaked and crying. Without a word, Lin Sha gently placed her jacket over her shoulders and apologized, explaining that she had been delayed on the way. Tearfully, Liu Sijia threw her arms around her, hugging her tightly as she whispered her thanks. Lin Sha comforted her softly, telling her that next time, if no one showed up, she shouldn't wait like that. Embarrassed, Liu Sijia mumbled that she was just bored. The two of them prepared to leave, but Liu Sijia hesitated, her expression still heavy as she started to talk about what had happened earlier. Before she could continue, Lin Sha reassured her that she wouldn't tell anyone. Side by side, they walked under a shared umbrella, moving slowly through the heavy rain. After a while, Liu Sijia suddenly stopped. She asked Lin Sha to wait for a moment. She needed to buy something. Approaching a nearby vendor, she smiled and asked if they had a specific brand of cigarettes. The vendor quickly replied that it was sold out and offered another option instead. Awkwardly, Liu Sijia shook her head and said that the person she had in mind only liked that one brand. Hearing that, Lin Sha couldn't help but feel confused. She wondered to herself, was someone like Ban Sheng really worth going this far for?
The next day, Lin Sha stood by the water station, quietly filling her bottle. Not far from her, a group of girls began whispering, their attention clearly fixed on the new student. One of them stepped closer and casually reached out to tap Lin Sha's arm to get her attention. But the moment her eyes landed on the blue bow tied to Lin Sha's uniform, her expression changed. With a hint of surprise, she remarked that she hadn't realized Lin Sha was an F student. Not fully understanding, Lin Sha simply nodded and answered yes. That response only made the girl's reaction worse. Her face twisted with irritation and disgust, and she immediately wiped her hand with a napkin as if she had touched something unpleasant. As they walked away, the other girls continued murmuring, saying that while Lin Sha looked pretty, it was a shame she was just an F student. Back in class, one of her classmates approached her and quietly told her to ignore them. She explained that A students always acted arrogantly toward F students. As they walked together, the girl casually mentioned that Lin Sha happened to sit very close to her in class. But before she could even introduce herself, Lin Sha calmly said her name, Fang Mo. Hearing her name already known, Fang Mo's face lit up with a bright smile.
Still slightly confused, Lin Sha decided to ask what those girls meant earlier when they called her an F student. Fang Mo patiently explained. At this school, students were divided by status. A students wore red bow ties, while F students wore blue ones, making it easy to tell them apart. Lin Sha frowned slightly, still not fully understanding the difference. Fang Mo continued, explaining that A students usually came from wealthy or influential families and consistently ranked at the top academically. In contrast, F students were more complicated. Some had poor grades, others came from ordinary backgrounds, or were transfers like her. They were often labeled as weak or average. In simple terms, it was a mix of different social classes all placed in the same school. And because of that, A students often looked down on F students, while most F students simply chose to ignore them. Just then, Liu Sijia suddenly appeared and wrapped her arms around Lin Sha from behind. She cheerfully said she had been looking for her everywhere and asked if they could have lunch together. Before Lin Sha could say much, she was already being pulled away. She only managed to say a quick goodbye, while Fang Mo adjusted her glasses and politely wished her a good lunch. At the cafeteria, Liu Sijia excitedly laid out the food she'd brought, proudly saying it was all prepared by her housekeeper. In return, Lin Sha handed her a drink, mentioning it was low in sugar, something she thought her friend would prefer. Not far away, other students watched the two of them, whispering among themselves. They admitted that both girls were beautiful, but questioned how Liu Sijia could casually eat with an F student. Unbothered, the two continued chatting, completely immersed in their own little world. Until the source of the tension walked in. Ban Sang entered the cafeteria. One of his friends, calling him brother, looked frustrated as he complained about a boy with glasses who had stolen money from an old lady, even after being punished twice. But the moment Ban Sang noticed Lin Sha nearby, his expression shifted slightly. He calmly told his friend to drop the topic and stop talking about it. Meanwhile, Lin Sha and Liu Sijia continued eating peacefully. Suddenly, Liu Sijia's eyes lit up. She excitedly called out, completely energized, while Lin Sha looked on confused. Her friend eagerly pointed out that Ban Sang had come to eat in the cafeteria. Without warning, Liu Sijia stood up, grabbing Lin Sha's cup. She quickly explained that she was going to switch drinks since Ban Sang preferred sweet beverages. She planned to take the opportunity to approach him and also ask about the meeting he missed. Humming happily to herself, she walked straight towards him. Ban Sang, however, didn't even bother to look at her while she spoke. His indifference was obvious. Watching from a distance, Lin Sha couldn't help but feel slightly irritated by his attitude.
Liu Sijia soon came running back, her face glowing with excitement. She happily shared that Ban Sheng had accepted the drink, even though he already had one on the table. Curious, Lin Sha asked about their missed meeting over the weekend. Liu Sijia quickly explained that he had apologized, saying something unexpected came up, and since he accepted the drink, she decided to forgive him. At that moment, Lin Sha casually glanced to the side, only to meet Ban Sheng's gaze. Without looking away, he picked up the drink she had sent, pierced the lid with a straw, and slowly took a sip, all while watching her, a faint, provocative smile forming on his lips. Caught off guard, Lin Sha quickly turned away, a hint of embarrassment crossing her face. She couldn't help but wonder, did he do that on purpose? Not long after, Lin Sha and Fang Mo walked back toward their classroom. Fang Mo noticed the unusual noise inside and asked what was going on. A group of girls were gathered, chatting excitedly while fixing their makeup, clearly trying to catch someone's attention. Then Fang Mo spotted the reason. Ban Sheng had returned to class. Some students immediately started talking to him, one even asking if he had watched a basketball game the night before. As Lin Sha walked past, Ban Sheng subtly glanced at Lin Sha, checking if she was still ignoring him. And she was. Fang Mo quietly commented that Ban Sheng came from an incredibly wealthy family and still managed to achieve excellent grades despite his cold personality. She added that many girls liked his looks and intelligence. Then, lowering her voice, asked if Lin Sha had ever noticed the tattoo on his ankle, a black lily. Rumor had it he got it for the girl he loved, even though tattoos were against school rules. Fang Mo added that someone like him was probably only interested in A-grade girls. But before she could continue, a notebook suddenly landed on Lin Sha's desk.
Ban Sheng stood there, casually stating that it was his Chinese assignment. He added that next time, she should send someone else to pick it up. The entire classroom fell silent. Everyone was stunned that someone like Ban Sheng had spoken directly to an F student. Fang Mo, on the other hand, looked thrilled, but even more impressed that Lin Sha didn't respond to him at all. Slightly irritated, Lin Sha just put the notebook away. His tone, it was exactly the same as that night. Just then, a voice echoed through the school's loudspeaker. All students were instructed to immediately gather at the field for a motivational assembly for the new semester. It was also announced that the student council would conduct a surprise inspection of uniforms and classroom behavior. Soon, everyone began heading toward the field. As they walked down the stairs, Fang Mo suddenly noticed something. Lin Sha wasn't wearing her ID badge. Realizing it, Lin Sha quickly turned back toward the classroom to find it, asking Fang Mo to go ahead and wait for her at the field. The hallways were now empty. As she walked through the quiet corridors, she searched carefully, wondering how she could have lost it. Then, she looked down. 2 pairs of white sneakers stopped right in front of her. And just beside them, a black lily tattoo on the left ankle. Lin Sha slowly looked up. Ban Sheng stood there, a faint smile on his face. Without saying a word, he extended his hand, revealing her ID badge. He casually asked if this was what she was looking for. Lin Sha quickly took it, thanking him. But before she could finish, he suddenly leaned closer. In a low voice, he said he hadn't found the old one. He had a new one made instead. Every word carried a hint of charm. Then he stepped back, as if nothing had happened, and casually added that she owed him $12 for it. Before she could even react, he turned and walked away. Left standing alone in the hallway, Lin Sha felt her heart racing. She couldn't understand it. Why? Why did he help her?
Soon, the school field was packed with students, all gathered for the motivational meeting to welcome the new semester. Amid the crowd, Fang Mo leaned closer and whispered, asking Lin Sha if she had found her ID badge. She reminded her that the student council would be conducting an inspection soon, and that her hair shouldn't be covering it. Before Lin Sha could respond, a sharp voice suddenly called her name. All eyes turned. It was Li Xingran, the red-haired leader of the student council. She stepped forward with an air of authority, her gaze cold and unwavering. She asked if Lin Sha had memorized the school rules, then gave her exactly 1 minute to tie up her hair. Calmly, Lin Sha explained that she couldn't tie her hair at the moment and that her situation had already been discussed with the teachers before she enrolled. But instead of understanding, Li Xingran's expression turned to clear disdain. She mocked the so-called F students, questioning if they were starting to get too full of themselves and whether Lin Sha believed even the student council couldn't control her. Then she suddenly stepped closer. Her eyes scanned Lin Sha from head to toe before she asked with biting sarcasm if she was so poor that she couldn't even afford a hair tie. Laughter erupted from the surrounding students. They mocked her openly, calling her a shameless beggar, ridiculing her for being an F student. Only Fang Mo stood there, silent and uneasy. But Lin Sha didn't back down. She stood her ground and calmly repeated that she had already explained it to the teachers, If there was a problem, then the student council should take it up with them. That only made Li Xingran even more irritated. She stepped forward again, saying that since Lin Sha had chosen to attend this school, she should follow its rules, and if she wouldn't tie her hair, then she would do it herself. Just as she reached out, a voice cut through the tension. "Stop!" Someone grabbed her wrist. Though she quickly pulled free, she froze when she saw who it was. Liu Sijia. With a firm tone, Liu Sijia told her not to abuse her authority and to stop bothering Lin Sha. Confused, Li Xingran frowned and asked why she was defending an F student and what their relationship even was. For a brief moment, Liu Sijia hesitated. Then memories flashed through her mind. The night she stood crying in the rain, and the one who came to her side. Lin Sha. Lifting her chin, Liu Sijia answered with confidence. "She's my friend." The words landed heavily. Without another word, Li Xingran turned away and left, though not without muttering under her breath, questioning what was so special about an F student. Around them, whispers spread again. But Lin Sha barely heard any of it. All she could think about was the word friend. A small, genuine smile formed on her face.
Beside her, Liu Sijia softly assured her that she would stay by her side. Not far away, 3 boys watched the entire scene unfold. One of them commented that if someone like Liu Sijia started dating, it would shake the entire school's popularity rankings. Another added that the new girl was actually quite pretty, even if she was an F student. But the blonde among them sneered. With a malicious grin, he said that F girls were easy to win over, that just giving them something expensive would be enough. He even went as far as making inappropriate remarks about Lin Sha's appearance. Before he could continue, a hand suddenly gripped his shoulder tightly. He froze. A cold voice called his name. Ban Sheng stood behind him, his expression dark and unreadable. He said he had something to discuss and asked if they could talk somewhere else. The next day, rumors spread across the school. Everyone was talking about a fight, about how Ban Sheng confronted the blonde because of those disgusting comments about Liu Sijia. One of Ban Sheng's friends rushed into his classroom, clearly excited. He approached his desk and called out, "Boss," catching both his attention and Lin Sha's, who was sitting right behind him. Lowering his voice, the boy eagerly asked if the rumors were true, if he really fought that idiot because of Liu Sijia. Ban Sheng didn't answer. He simply stared at him, his expression turning cold. Realizing he had said too much, the boy quickly backed off, nervously saying he wouldn't ask again. Trying to change the subject, he leaned closer and glanced at the paper on Ban Sheng's desk and froze. 98%. Lin Sha, sitting behind, also noticed. Her curiosity was piqued as she quietly observed. Meanwhile, Ban Sheng's friend excitedly asked how he managed to score so high, begging him to share his secret. Without a word, Ban Sheng casually tossed a milk carton into his hands and said he should drink more milk if he wanted to become smarter. Lin Sha couldn't help but smile faintly at the interaction. At the same time, she was genuinely impressed. The exams at this school were incredibly difficult. Scoring that high meant one thing: Ban Sheng was truly intelligent, and if she wanted to keep up, she would have to work hard. Just then, Ban Sheng reached for a cup and poured some soda into it. Inside was a pickled plum mixture. As the soda blended, the drink turned slightly salty. His friend looked surprised, commenting that he actually liked drinks like that. With a faint smirk, Ban Sheng replied that recently he had started to prefer salty drinks over sweet ones. Hearing that, Lin Sha's hand slipped. The physics calculation she had been working on smudged across the page. Her face flushed slightly in embarrassment, because somehow that sounded exactly like the drink she had given him before.
During break time, students filled the corridors, chatting as they moved between classes.
Lin Sha and Liu Sijia walked side by side, continuing their conversation. Liu Sijia looked a little concerned and asked if the student council had been bothering her again. Lin Sha calmly shook her head, saying everything was fine. But then Liu Sijia grew curious, wondering how Lin Sha managed to find her ID badge. Lin Sha explained that she actually didn't find it. Ban Sheng had given her a new one. She admitted she didn't even know how or why he did it. Hearing that, Liu Sijia's eyes lit up. She quickly said that Ban Sheng was actually very capable. He had entered the business world at a young age and had already achieved financial success. She even mentioned that he was the one who designed the school's uniform emblems. With a small smile, she added that since he came from such a wealthy family, it was unlikely he did things for money. Lin Sha quietly replied that she had heard something about that the day before. But before she could finish, Liu Sijia quickly cut her off, telling her not to spread those rumors. Then, almost immediately, her expression softened. Blushing shyly, she admitted that she had liked Ban Sheng for a long time. She said he was different from other guys. He loved astronomy so much that he once spent 2 whole months searching for a single star. And beyond that, he had traveled the world just to practice diving. Sighing, Liu Sijia confessed that she couldn't even understand something as simple as star coordinates, and she would probably drown if she tried diving. Her voice grew quieter. She felt like she could never truly understand his world. Seeing that, Lin Sha gently took her hand. She admitted she wasn't very good at comforting people, but still told her not to push herself too hard just for someone else. But Liu Sijia only tightened her grip, her eyes full of determination. She asked Lin Sha to help her win his heart. 2 days later, Lin Sha and Fang Mo were leaving the classroom together. Fang Mo commented that Lin Sha had been really lucky, finding her ID badge and having Liu Sijia step in to deal with the student council. She added that for an F student, handling that situation alone would have been extremely difficult. Once again, Lin Sha explained that she hadn't actually found her badge, that Ban Sheng had given it to her. But before she could finish, someone suddenly called out her name. The girl approached and informed her that it was Li Shenran's birthday this weekend and that she was invited. Lin Sha paused for a moment, then politely declined, saying she already had plans. The girl didn't seem to care. Slightly annoyed, she simply replied that it didn't matter. Her job was just to deliver the invitation. After she left, Fang Mo looked surprised. She mentioned that F students were almost never invited to events like that, and that this could be a rare opportunity. But Lin Sha shook her head and explained that her family owned a small grocery store, and she usually helped out on weekends. Returning to their earlier conversation, Lin Sha remarked that she was surprised Ban Sheng had designed the uniforms. She wondered if he was also the one who decided on the different bow tie colors. Fang Mo shrugged, saying she didn't know the details. She added that when someone questioned it, the school simply said it was a tradition. Later, back in the classroom, Liu Sijia excitedly called Lin Sha over and showed her her phone. She asked if Lin Sha had also received the invitation, suggesting they go together. She was especially eager, saying Ban Sheng would most likely be there. Lin Sha started typing a reply, saying she had already declined. But then, she paused. She remembered Liu Sijia's earlier words, asking for her help. Slowly, she deleted the message. Instead, she simply replied, "Okay." She agreed to go. Just then, the boy sitting in front of her suddenly tossed a notebook onto her desk. As Lin Sha opened it, she found a note inside. It was from Ban Sheng. He thanked her for the money, but stated that he didn't accept cash. Instead, he had written down his WeChat ID. Tucked inside the notebook were the exact bills she had given him. Lin Sha blinked, slightly confused. She looked up, only to see his back. He was focused on the lesson, not even glancing in her direction, as if none of it mattered. Quietly, Lin Sha took out her phone and added his contact.
That night, Lin Sha sat quietly on her bed, absent-mindedly scrolling through her phone. On the screen was the transfer she had sent, $12 to Ban Sheng, still unreceived. She frowned slightly, wondering why he hadn't accepted it yet. After all, she had sent it earlier that afternoon. Letting out a small sigh, she decided she would just ask him about it the next day. With that thought, she prepared to sleep. But just as she was about to put her phone down, it vibrated. A new notification. She quickly grabbed it, a small spark of anticipation lighting up her eyes. But it wasn't him. It was Liu Sijia. Her friend had sent 3 different outfits, asking which one she should wear to the party the next day. Lin Sha's expression softened with mild disappointment. Still, she replied honestly, saying the black outfit suited her best. But just as she finished typing, another message came in. This time, it was from Ban Sheng. He hadn't accepted the transfer. Instead, he sent a location, most likely the address of the party, and added a short message telling her not to take the wrong road. Lin Sha froze. Then, suddenly flustered, she pulled the blanket over her head, hiding her face. Her thoughts raced. How did he know she was going to the party? And why didn't he accept the money? The next afternoon, Lin Sha stood at a small bus stop near the foot of a mountain, holding her phone as she messaged Liu Sijia, letting her know that she had already arrived, though in reality, her terrible sense of direction had left her completely lost. She asked if she could come pick her up, but there was no reply. Time passed.
The sun slowly dipped below the horizon, and the surroundings grew darker. Sitting alone on the bench, Lin Sha finally managed to call her friend. She asked if she had seen her messages, explaining that she was still stuck at the foot of the mountain. But on the other end, the noise was overwhelming. Music, laughter, voices. Liu Sijia could barely hear anything. Her friends were even urging her to hang up and rejoin the party. In the end, she could only tell Lin Sha that she was too busy to come. The call ended. Lin Sha looked at her phone, then at the empty road ahead. Letting out a quiet breath, she decided it would be better to just leave than wander around aimlessly in the dark. But just as she stood up, a black car pulled up in front of her. The rear window slowly rolled down. Inside, a familiar figure appeared. Ban Sheng. Resting his arm against the window frame, he looked at her with a faint smile and casually asked if she was lost. Soon after, the car sped along a long, illuminated road leading up the mountain. Inside the vehicle, the two sat side by side in the back seat, silent. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them looked at each other. The atmosphere was strangely tense, yet calm. From the front, the driver spoke up, reminding his young master that the mountain road ahead was full of sharp curves and that they needed to be careful. Moments later, the car began to turn. The steering wheel shifted sharply, and the car swerved at high speed. Caught off guard, Lin Sha slid across the seat, straight into Ban Sheng. Their bodies collided, bringing them suddenly dangerously close. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop. The only thing missing was the sound of romantic music.
Still caught in that close moment inside the car, their attention shifted to Ben Sheng's hand. A small cut marked his index finger, the results of the cactus. Awkwardly, Lin Sha quickly searched her pocket, apologizing as she did. She said it was her fault the cactus had hurt him. Then, she handed him a small pink Band-Aid, asking him to use it. Ben Sheng took it calmly, holding it by the edge. Without hesitation, he brought it to his mouth, tearing it open with his teeth before carefully wrapping it around his finger. Trying to ease the tension, Lin Sha asked if he wasn't supposed to be at the party already. She mentioned that she had seen a photo of him there with some classmates. Ben Sheng replied casually. He said he had stepped out to help Li Shangran's brother pick up a few things, and also to check if a certain someone had gotten lost along the way. Hearing that, Lin Sha immediately felt embarrassed. Not long after, the black car pulled up in front of a massive mansion. Compared to it, the car looked almost like a tiny beetle. The trunk was already open. Ben Sheng offered to help carry the boxes for the driver, explaining that the man was elderly and had a bad back. Lin Sha quickly offered to help as well, but the driver politely refused, insisting he was fine. Instead, Ben Sheng handed her a bunch of balloons, asking her to carry those. As she held them, she couldn't help but notice how naturally he took on the heavier work himself, reassuring her that she didn't need to carry anything else. After a moment, Ben Sheng glanced back at her and casually asked if the cactus she had been holding earlier was meant for Li Shangran's birthday gift. Lin Sha paused. A quiet sense of unease crept in. That cactus meant something to her. It wasn't just any gift, but she couldn't afford anything expensive. For a moment, she wondered if he thought it was too simple. Before she could say anything, Ben Sheng suddenly stepped closer. The sudden movement made her blush. Then, without warning, he reached out and took the cactus from her hands. Startled, she asked what he was doing. He lifted it slightly, looking at it with a faint smile, and said that it must have pricked his finger earlier because it wanted to go with him. Before Lin Sha could react, he threw her another gift. He told her she could give this one to Li Shangran instead, mentioning that she had been desperate to get a signed photo card from her favorite idol.
Lin Sha immediately tried to protest, saying he shouldn't use her as a middleman to deliver his gift. But Ban Sheng simply added that Li Shangran was allergic to cactus. That stopped her. For a moment, she couldn't tell what he meant. Had she misunderstood him? Was he actually trying to help? As she stood there, lost in thought, Ban Sheng, who had already walked ahead, suddenly stopped. He turned slightly and asked if she was coming with him to the party. Caught off guard, Lin Sha quickly nodded in agreement. At the party, guests were already gathered and whispers filled the room. Many were wondering where Ban Sheng was, especially since the birthday girl had already arrived. Then, the door opened. Ban Sheng stepped in. Right behind him was Lin Sha. The entire room fell silent. Eyes shifted between the two of them, and murmurs quickly spread, some accusing her of being someone chasing status. Liu Sijia quickly rushed over to Lin Sha, apologizing. She said she had only just seen her message. With a bright smile, she turned to Ban Sheng and thanked him for bringing her friend. He simply smiled back, calm and relaxed, but said nothing. Instead, he walked over to his butler and handed him the box he had been carrying. Lin Sha glanced at him, slightly worried, but Liu Sijia assured her, telling her not to overthink his reaction. Soon after, Li Shangran appeared. Stepping forward, Lin Sha handed her the gift and softly said, "Happy birthday." Even before opening it, Li Shangran seemed unimpressed, already thinking she shouldn't have invited an F student. But the moment she saw what was inside, her expression changed instantly. Excitement filled her face as she asked how she managed to get a limited edition signed photo from her favorite idol. Around them, the atmosphere shifted. The same people who had been whispering before now started praising her. Lin Sha tried to explain who the gift really came from, but Liu Shangran quickly cut her off, telling her to relax and just enjoy the dessert. Still, Lin Sha couldn't help but glance across the room. Her eyes found Ban Sheng.
Watching quietly from a distance, he unwrapped a piece of candy from a small red cloth. As he placed it in his mouth, a faint smile appeared. To him, dealing with people in that world wasn't just about power or caution. Sometimes there were other ways. And as he watched Lin Sha, he realized something. She hadn't changed at all since they were children.
After some time, a group of boys, including Ban Sheng, stood on the balcony looking down at the party below. One of them, a blonde, suddenly pointed toward a girl sitting alone on a sofa. With a grin, he commented on how beautiful she was and asked who she might be. Another boy, speaking in a mischievous tone, suggested that she must be feeling lonely sitting there by herself. He casually proposed that they invite her over, adding that since Ban Sheng didn't care about F students, there was no reason for them to care either. The mood shifted instantly. Ban Sheng's expression darkened. He turned his gaze toward the boy, his eyes sharp and cold, and asked if he was looking for trouble. Caught off guard, the blonde froze for a moment before backing down. With an awkward laugh, he said that if the girl belonged to Master Ban, then he would stay out of it. Not far away, Liu Sijia had just arrived, holding a bottle of juice she intended to bring to Ban Sheng. But instead, she overheard everything. Her expression fell. Quietly, she turned and walked away, her heart heavy as she questioned why Ban Sheng seemed to care so much about Lin Sha. Meanwhile, Lin Sha sat alone, focused on a small puzzle in her hands. Suddenly, someone called her name. Liu Sijia appeared beside her and sat down, handing her a bottle of orange juice. She mentioned, almost casually, that she had decided to start bringing Ban Sheng drinks every day, as a way to get closer to him. Lin Sha responded without much thought, saying that he seemed to prefer sweet milk from a certain brand. That caught Liu Sijia completely off guard. She immediately turned, asking almost desperately how Lin Sha knew that. Calmly, Lin Sha explained that his habit of drinking milk every morning was well known around school. Since she sat behind him, she had simply noticed the brand by chance. Liu Sijia smiled, nodding, though deep down she wondered if she had been overthinking things. Just then, a loud noise echoed through the room, drawing everyone's attention.
Across the hall, a girl stood surrounded by several boys, clutching a small box tightly in her hands. Her voice trembled as she pleaded with them not to do whatever they were planning. The same arrogant blonde stepped forward, sneering. He questioned why she was hiding the cookies, saying they wanted to try some too. Without waiting, he reached out, trying to snatch the box from her. The girl trembled, holding onto it tightly, her head lowered. Then, suddenly, one of the boys behind her kicked her in the back. He mocked her, telling her to answer properly since she'd been asked a question. The force sent her stumbling forward, collapsing at the blonde's feet. Annoyed, he clicked his tongue, complaining that she had almost fallen onto him. As the girl trembled on the ground, the group burst into laughter. Watching from a distance, Lin Sha's expression hardened. Irritation surged through her as she stepped forward, ready to intervene. But suddenly, a pale hand reached out and grabbed her wrist. The pink band-aid on the thumb was unmistakable. Before she could react, she was pulled away and pressed lightly against a nearby wall. Her movement stopped. Startled and angry, she demanded to know who he thought he was. But then she looked up. Ban Sheng. He released her hand calmly, a cigarette resting between the fingers of his other hand. Without much emotion, he said it was him and warned her not to rush in like that. From the corner, they both watched. Meanwhile, the boys continued their harassment. The girl remained seated on the floor, trembling, still clutching the box. The blonde took one of the cookies, bit into it, and immediately made a face of disgust. He mocked her openly, saying it tasted terrible, and questioned how she even dared to bring something like that to a place like this.
The blonde brute crouched down in front of the girl, a cruel grin on his face. He pressed a finger against her forehead, mocking her as he asked if she had let dandruff fall into the cookies while making them. The others burst into laughter, piling on with jokes about how disgusting that sounded. Meanwhile, the girl remained on her knees, trembling, unable to respond. Watching from the side, Lin Sha felt anger rising in her chest, but Ban Sheng held her arm firmly, stopping her from stepping in. Irritated, she turned to him and demanded to know if he couldn't see what was happening, that the girl was being bullied right in front of them. Even so, Ban Sheng stayed calm. He told her that if she rushed in now, it would only make things worse. But Lin Sha didn't care. She insisted she was going anyway. Just as she tried to move, Ban Sheng tightened his grip slightly and called her name. And then, suddenly, he removed the band-aid from his finger and changed the subject, saying there was still a cactus thorn stuck inside that he couldn't remove. Lin Sha tried to argue, but he simply looked straight into her eyes, holding out his finger. "If you take it out, I'll let you go." Realizing she wasn't getting past him, she had no choice but to comply. With a quiet sigh, she leaned closer and carefully examined his finger, searching for the tiny thorn. As she focused, Ban Sheng spoke in a low voice. He explained that in situations like that, the more someone tried to help, the more those boys would escalate their behavior. He assured her that someone else would step in eventually, and that was why he stopped her. Once she finished, Lin Sha pulled her hand away and asked him a question. What was the difference between someone who stood by and did nothing and someone who was actually bullying? But before she could finish, a loud voice cut through the tension. Someone had stepped in. It was Li Shanran. The birthday girl stood firmly in front of the blonde, her tone sharp as she questioned what they were doing. She said she had already called someone for help and demanded to know why they were bullying a guest at her party. Relief washed over Lin Sha. At least now, the girl would be safe. She turned, ready to leave, but suddenly her arm was grabbed again. Ban Sheng.
He pulled her slightly in front of him and said the situation had already been resolved, asking for her attention instead. Lin Sha replied that she had already removed the thorn from his finger. He glanced down and calmly pointed out she hadn't put the band-aid back on. Letting out an impatient sigh, Lin Sha took the band-aid and wrapped it around his finger again. Then she stepped back and reminded him that he had promised to let her go. Without waiting for anything else, she turned and walked away. Ban Sheng watched her quietly, his expression thoughtful. He understood that what she said earlier was right. Maybe he wasn't that different from those people. His words made Lin Sha pause for just a moment, but she didn't turn back. Looking down at his injured finger, Ban Sheng muttered that because of this, she would have to get used to seeing him more often. That was enough. Lin Sha lost her patience and walked away, clearly annoyed. Behind her, Ban Sheng leaned casually against the wall, watching her go. Meanwhile, the group of boys tried to brush it off, claiming it had all just been a joke. But Li Shanren didn't accept that. Her expression hardened as she said it wasn't a joke at all, and ordered them to leave. As they walked away, the blonde cast one last malicious glance back, saying she was lucky this time, but next time he would do something far more interesting. The girl on the floor finally broke down, tears falling as she picked up the broken pieces of cookies scattered around her. Then, a hand reached out towards her. A gentle voice told her not to be afraid anymore. The bullies were gone. Through her tears, the girl looked up. Lin Sha stood there. With a soft expression, she extended her hand and told her she would help her leave this place. The two of them walked out of the mansion together. Just outside, Li Shanren came running after them, calling out. Her face was filled with guilt.
She apologized sincerely, explaining that she had been the one to invite those people and never expected things to go that far. As a gesture of apology, she handed the girl a bag with something inside. Kindly, Lin Sha accepted it and thanked her. The girl beside her still looked shaken, her sadness lingering. Seeing this, Li Shanren added that it was not safe for them to go home at that hour and offered her driver to take them. Lin Sha accepted, knowing all too well how poor her sense of direction was.
Later that night, a group of people gathered in a dimly lit alley playing cards while casually talking about money, bets, and tuition fees. One man even mentioned that he had enrolled his daughter in an elite school just so she could build connections with wealthy families. Not far from there, a black car came to a stop at the entrance of a narrow alley. The driver turned slightly and explained that he couldn't go any further as the path ahead was too tight for the car to pass. Inside, Lin Sha handed the bag to the girl beside her. She gently explained that it contained medicine Li Shenran had given for her wounds and reminded her to apply it once she got home. After a brief pause, Lin Sha asked if she wanted company, noting how dark and isolated the alley was. But the girl quietly refused and stepped out of the car alone. As Lin Sha watched her walk away, a question lingered in her mind. Why was she being avoided? Was it because she was an F student? The thought irritated her. To her, the division between A and F students felt nothing more than an excuse, something people use to belittle and humiliate others. Her expression hardened. Now that she was part of this school, she couldn't just stand by and ignore it. Suddenly, fragments of the past began to surface in her mind. Voices, mocking, cruel. People whispering about her, asking if she was disabled, pointing out something strange about her ear. In the memory, Lin Sha was on the ground, clutching her ear in pain. Her hearing aid had been knocked off, lying on the floor beside her. Then, a boy stepped in front of her. He declared that he wouldn't let them hurt her. But instead of backing down, the others turned on him. They called him a meddler, and then they started hitting him. He was knocked to the ground. Still, he shouted for Lin Sha to run. All she could do was beg them to stop. And then she woke up, gasping. Her body jolted upright as she sat on her bed, breathing heavily. One hand pressed against her chest, the other slowly moved to her ear. It was just a dream, but the pain still felt real. Early the next morning, Lin Sha prepared for school. She carefully placed her hearing aid in position, adjusting it so it stayed hidden beneath her hair. Just then, her aunt appeared behind her, asking if she had been experiencing heartburn lately. She mentioned she had prepared some herbal tea. Lin Xiao hesitated, awkwardly suggesting that maybe it wasn't necessary. But her aunt insisted, saying there was nothing better than iced herbal tea for that kind of problem. Later, at school, Liu Sijia took a sip of the tea and immediately made a face, complaining about how bitter it tasted. Quickly shifting topics, she asked Lin Xiao if she had decided which club to join. Without waiting for a full answer, she excitedly suggested they join the basketball club together, especially since Ban Sheng was also a member. Lin Xiao tried to say she had been considering the cello club instead, but Liu Sijia cut her off, saying staying indoors reading all the time wasn't good for her health. They needed more exercise. Still talking, Liu Sijia cheerfully declared it settled. Then, without hesitation, she placed a carton of milk into Ban Sheng's backpack before leaving the classroom. Left alone, Lin Xiao sighed softly. Her eyes drifted toward a cello club recruitment poster resting on her desk. After a moment, she slowly closed the brown book in front of her, as if giving up on the idea. Not long after, Ban Sheng entered the classroom with his friend. His friend immediately noticed the milk on his desk and pointed it out. Excitedly, he commented that it was even Ban Sheng's favorite brand, wondering out loud who knew him that well. He quickly assumed it must have been some girl. Then, his gaze shifted toward Lin Xiao.
She remained seated, focused on her notebook, not reacting at all. Meanwhile, Ban Sheng watched quietly. Since the night of the party, she had been avoiding him. Without saying anything, he picked up the milk and casually offered it to his friend. But the boy quickly refused, joking that he didn't want to risk being attacked by one of Ban Sheng's admirers for taking it. From her seat, Lin Xiao observed the two of them. She couldn't help but think that maybe Ban Sheng was still upset about what happened before, or perhaps he had already forgotten. Resting her head on her folded arms, she stared blankly ahead, worry lingering in her eyes. If she joined the basketball club, there would be no way to avoid him. And that left her with one question. What would she do when that moment came?